So, topic number three. One of the most interesting stories to follow in sports right now is what the heck is going on with Ferrari F1,
Yeah.
and it's specifically my favorite driver, Charles Leclerc, who 2 weekends in a row has had weekends to forget. So,
Mm.
let's go back 2 weeks ago now. He is, I think, running third in Monaco, and all of a sudden, uh, right after the race restarts, puts the car into the wall on a turn in Monaco. Now, it should be mentioned, Charles Leclerc is from Monaco. He has won
Yeah.
on this track before. He has driven this track many times. So why did it go into the wall? Well, he claims Brembo, the brakes manufacturer, is to blame. And all of a sudden, Brembo comes out and very publicly says, uh, well, this is very premature. This is very surprising. This is great astonishment, I think was the word they used. And this is not what happened. So they directly contradicted the driver. And Leclerc votes with his feet and decides, okay, he's actually going to take the brakes that his teammate Lewis Hamilton has and
Mhm.
moves on to carbon industry. And Sonia, here's the most interesting part in all of this. Even though Leclerc walked away and Ferrari supported him and is now putting him on the same brakes that his teammate has, internal investigations might have actually shown that it wasn't Brembo's fault. So
Mhm.
that left me thinking, what is a brand supposed to do in this?
Yeah, I mean, part of the thing that stuck out to me was I was surprised that he did go so like deep into saying that it was, the brakes. But then when they responded, it was so defensive. They didn't even include anything saying that like any data to back up what they were saying. They could have taken a softer route, not gone so defensive, not hit back on him a little. Like it felt even a little too personal too. So it's like at that point, what is Charles Leclerc going to do but like walk away, right? And when he sees my teammate is out here killing it, like winning P2 that race, winning P1 this race, like maybe it is that. Maybe I do want to do more of what my teammate is doing and he doesn't have, these breaks. So I feel like that was the problem that I have. So what do brands do? It's like, well, you don't go negative. Never go negative. I think that's always like a huge thing you can do. You can always, divert the attention. We're going to look into it. We're going to make sure that it's not a brake issue. Obviously we want everything to be the best for our driver. We support Charles Leclerc. We're going to look into it. They could have just said that, but it's like they got defensive and they went after him a little bit more than they had to.
The thing that people remember the most is what is said in the immediate aftermath,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The first 24, 48 hours. In the end, it very much could have been Leclerc's fault.
Hmm.
But nobody is going to follow up on the story because the news cycle moves so fast.
Hmm.
So the first thing you say as a brand is the most important thing. And
Hmm.
Sonia, I think you're absolutely right. The right words for them would have been safety is paramount to our business.
Yeah.
Safety of our drivers is the most important thing that matters. We are a brakes manufacturer. We have to get this
Hmm.
right. We will do a thorough investigation and we will make sure that our drivers are safe. We, are obviously very disappointed that this happened with Leclerc. We don't
Hmm.
know the cause yet. We're going to do the right thing by our driver.
Hmm.
That would have been the exact thing for them to say
Yeah.
because that is what people would have remembered. Now, that investigation later could have found that it was absolutely not the brake company's fault, and then
Hmm.
they can go take a victory lap and they can be vindicated.
Right.
But people would not remember the vindication
Right.
if they had done the negative tack that they took. Now,
Hmm.
the other thing I want to bring up in this is the massive power dynamic that has shifted between brands and individuals, and in this case specifically, professional athletes.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, I remember 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it really mattered who an athlete signed with because
Hmm.
the brand they signed with lent legitimacy to their stardom, right? You
Hmm.
wanted to get signed by Nike. You wanted Steph Curry to get signed by Under Armour. You wanted these brands because, you know, getting that shoe deal, getting that overall brand deal meant you were anointed as a superstar. It's
Hmm.
completely the other way around now. It is all about the athlete. The athlete has the following, they have the support, they
Hmm.
have the love of the fan, and you as the brand are just trying to like bask in the glow of these athletes, right? And you've seen that athletes recognize this. So
Yeah.
LeBron is a great example who knew he was more than an athlete from the very start, right? Pursued by every single brand. decides he's going to launch Spring Hill, and he's going to launch his own media company, and he's going to launch his own production company and his own agency. Like, very, very smart thing early on for him to do, to
Mhm.
recognize, hey, brands want to work with me. Great. I'm going to run it through my own ecosystem instead of having to share 10% over here and 10% over there.
Mhm.
And brands had to come correct. If you want to be part of LeBron's ecosystem, you can. And I think you're seeing this with this next generation of athletes realizing the power they have. And then image and likeness, NIL, which you may have heard about with college athletes, is only an extension of that. So
Mhm.
what do you do if you're a brand in this case, right? Um, Jump in, take the onus, take responsibility, even if it's not on you. It
Mhm.
actually may be better to take responsibility and then come back and say, hey, we found that it was due to some other causes, but
Mhm.
we're really happy we did the investigation to prove to everyone that
Mhm.
our stuff is reliable, right? I remember when the Under Armour CEO, when Trump was elected in, I think, 2016 or 17, said he is a great asset to our company. And Steph Curry, who is a star athlete,
Mhm.
said, yeah, if you remove the ET, right? Meaning
Mhm.
asset minus ET.
Mhm.
And Under Armour was now publicly beefing with their biggest star.
Right.
I'll give credit to Kevin Plank. He came out and said, you know what? I misspoke. What I was really talking about was this, and actually having a positive impact on our business. But I totally understand how what I said could be taken the way that it was taken. We love Steph. Steph's our guy. He's absolutely right. Right?
Mhm.
Had to walk it back.
Mhm.
And that's okay, because the alternative is Steph Curry decides he doesn't want to be a part of your brand, right?
Right.
And that signal goes to other athletes who no longer want to be a part of your brand. And so I
Mhm.
think this is just the dynamic we live in now. Brands want to think they are bigger than they are,
Mhm.
and they have to realize that, like, they're just one in a line, you know?
Mhm.
The athletes have the power. The athletes are one in a million. And if they don't want to work with your brand, they'll walk down the street and work with your competitor tomorrow, and you will be left in a lurch. So, painful lesson for the brake manufacturer to learn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To kind of piggyback on that, I think the lesson for me here is how much more people, audiences, customers, users prefer the individual, like the individuals, athletes, the ones actually doing the work, than, um, the brands. Even the thing with the Knicks and James Dolan, right? Like that created a whole bunch of drama because he came out and was essentially lying about what happened, and Mamdani, set the record straight, didn't come out and lash out against him. He actually came up with an alternate solution to the problem that ended up getting him more attention. And so like he's building up his own brand and reputation, that he is hardworking, he's wholesome, he wants things to go well for people, he's there for the public, for the people. He's gonna do whatever he can to make it work for them. He's a genuine like Knicks fan. They're willing to give him the benefit of doubt because he's been the one building up that brand. Same as like the athletes, right? When they're the ones building up their knowledge, expertise on like what they're, building and bringing the community with them, they can go out there and put that onus on them and say like, when I move to this, sports team, or when I, go to this brand, my fans are going to follow me. Right. So that's, what happened here. And then the second thing here is that there's a difference between a product failure and a comms failure. Right. When you allow the product failure or the possibility of one, and you get so defensive that you make it into a comms failure, you failed on two parts. Right. Nobody's going to care about the product failure. Right. But they care about the comms failure because that's what they see. That's what they understand. They see you coming at their favorite driver and saying like, whoa, 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 kid, do you even know what you're talking about? The data shows, like there's no need for that. And now like you're a brake company, like nobody's going to follow you, like, and I think that brands need to recognize whether or not they have power. And right now you don't, right? Like make it about
Yeah.
the people, make it about the athletes, make it about the fans, because that's where, you bring people back to you, right? So I think this kind of like leads to the bigger takeaways for the entire episode. And that's like how important it is to make things about the people, about the fans, about the users, the customers, the ones that like are in it there with you, right? Like they want to participate, they want to have a monoculture. And even with like Americans who aren't, huge fans of soccer, they are fans of their country being shown to them in a wholesome, happy light. And if brands can jump in on that, they're going to have far more success than if they don't, right? This is my whole Monsters Inc. theory
Mm.
where too many brands are stuck in the idea of making people angry and making them scared instead of, making them laugh and bringing joy to them. And just like in the movie, like Monsters Inc., joy and happiness have way more energy and like fulfillment for people than making them angry and like, scared. And I think brands that really want to succeed need to fall back into that wholesomeness and like really just be more positive and make it about people instead of trying to like be negative all the time. I mean, like Nike's coming back from being really ragged on after the Boston Marathon, right? Because people were surprised. Nike has been on a high of like, being there for the Dodgers, being there for Rory McIlroy, who won, the Masters again this year, and then they go and they turn negative, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're supposed to be celebrating people and then making them want to feel positive and happiness. And then you're like ragging on people who are like trying, They realize, oh shit, like maybe people want to be happy. Yeah, like come on, So like what can you as a brand do to like make people happy and get them to participate? And then the other thing is that like what can you do to bring people together a little bit more, right? Like really try to like, participate. One thing that I'm like that's happening right now with like the World Cup, we'll bring it back to that, is you have the commercials, you have these like hydration breaks, right? That's not happening on Telemundo, right? Because they're like, we want people to, they came out and they said we want people to still feel as if they're part of the game, still participating, still there in the moment, right? Whereas Fox has been like cutting away to commercial breaks, right? And one of the ideas I had was like, if a brand came in, bought the ad space from Fox and said like, hey, well, don't play any commercials. Just like, just put around the band saying that like, Coca-Cola has bought this like ad space for you to like witness, like how much would people love that brand? Like, yeah, like fight against this power, fight against these stupid like commercials and like I'm a marketer, right? Like I'm okay with ads in general, but not for soccer because you're changing something. You're changing the integrity of what people are used to profit off of it, And so it's just like, how can you get creative and like come up with ways to like make the people, feel as if like you care about them and aren't just trying to like sell to them, which is kind of what we were talking about, the costly poly market versus Nike, instance as
Ironically, the
well.
more you make it about yourself, the less the marketing lands, right? And I
Right?
think that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
summation of it. And yeah, it's a fine line, right? You don't want to just buy the ad space and never actually
Yeah.
show your product or show your brand, but
Mm-hmm.
you show your ethos and your culture that way. That
Right.
example you gave of like, I'm just going to put a thin border around it with my logo at the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just going to show you what you want to see anyway.
Yeah.
And aren't you so positively connected to my brand because you go, wow, they get what I want in this
Yeah.
moment. Okay, well, if they get what I want here, maybe they get what I want later on as well. The other piece of it is
Mm-hmm.
like authenticity is one of the most counterfeited assets in marketing, right? People have tried to create this authenticity, but I want to take a positive spin on it, not actually a
Mm-hmm.
negative one. What it's showing us is that authenticity is what people are really hungry for. And they're
Mm-hmm.
really hungry for the real communal unmonetized culture, the in-person culture, the phones
Yeah.
away culture. And so what can you as a brand do to be a part of it? Create moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really fun ones that we saw in the summer where there was a Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest and
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet showed up, right?
I know.
And
Yeah.
he like came in third, which was really funny. But it's like kind of one of these fun things where how do you make it fun? How do you make it engaging? How do you bring people together, give them
Mm-hmm.
excuses to do so? We have seen time and time again, just in the last 2 weeks, how much people are starving to be together in person.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a brand that can just say, listen, I'm going to spend the $50,000 I could spend on a billboard, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to spend on bringing people together to do a fun scavenger hunt in a city,
Mm-hmm.
and just be like at the bottom of the scavenger hunt, just as like brought to you by
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola or whatever, right? Hey, that's a really positive brand association because of what you are bringing people, not because you're trying to make it about you. So that's, I think, my big takeaway from all the topics
Yeah.
we talked about today. Be authentic, speak authentically, give people the ability to engage with each other, not
Mm-hmm.
with you. And because you are the person who created that environment, you will benefit from the positive reaction of it.
Love that. That's a great takeaway.